Hi there. Travel and Things present In Conversation With. I'm your host, David Batsoffen, and my guest today, all the way from Nairobi, is Jonathan Scott, and people may recognize him from Big Cat Diaries. Jonathan, how are you doing?
You know, David, I am so pleased to see you. I mean, was it 19? No, it wasn't that far back. 2016, when I came.
2006, you
Yep,
came
and I
to
came
South
to South
Africa
Africa.
to
That's the one.
do
And
this?
you know, I know you know this, but Angie and myself call ourselves the Big Cat people because we've made our life, in a sense, studying, following, watching, photographing, filming the big cats in the place we often describe as the last great place on earth, the Masai Mara in Kenya, just God's own country, whether you
Yeah.
believe in God or not. It's a corner of Eden. And Angie was born in Africa. I came here as a kid who'd been brought up on a farm in Berkshire in England, had studied zoology at university in Ireland, when my professor said, after 4 years, and he said, okay, Jonathan, or he'd have called me Scott. Okay, Scott, what is it next? PhD? And I said, oh, you got to be joking. I said, I want to be outside. I want to go to Africa. I want to do something with wild animals. And I saw this look just transform his face. And I had visions of the father I never knew, who died when I was 2, because there was a look of terrible concern when he said, young man, by any chance, do you have a private income? And I said, no. He said, but we'd all love to do that. He said, but it's a pastime. You know, you need a living, you need a career. And the beauty of it was, I then went overland in a Bedford truck with a group of people, 2 overland trucks, from London to Joburg, 1974. I saw the Mara Serengeti, East Africa, the Savannah Africa that I just loved on television, Born Free, Elsa the Lion Country.
Yeah, I remember that well.
Yeah, remember that? Yes, 1966. So I came through, saw Africa, and then, as you said, eventually, 1996, 2008, we did a series, Big Cat Diary, and now we have a new series called Big Cat Tales. So we've been doing this a long time. But the fact is that when I did Big Cat Diary, that professor at university in Ireland saw me on television, and he wrote me the sweetest letter. And he said, I am so proud of you. He said, because the thing you did, which really, you know, made the difference, was you had a mission, you weren't going to be deterred, and you didn't listen to a word that I said. Well done.
Good for you. Now, that's the long introduction to the reason for our chat today. I remember from 2016. Is this Kickstarter campaign that you've got going currently? Tell me a bit about it, why you started it, and what it's going to be utilized for.
Okay, so just pick that book up again. Is it still there?
I have to tell you that I have left this book to my daughter in my will. It is in absolute pristine condition. It is locked away. It's out of the light, so it's not going to deteriorate at all.
I love it. Yeah.
And as I think I said to you when I first picked up a copy of this book, which people is huge and not a cent was spared to produce this,
No.
I bought 4 table legs. And I may well turn this thing into a coffee table, let alone a coffee table book, John.
So you had to buy a coffee table. The reason I've asked you, David, to pick it up again is how many publishers are going to give you as an author the opportunity, a big picture book, lots of color pictures, a lot of black and white, 300 pages, weighs 3 kilos. What publisher is going to go to the expense of producing a book like that? They're not going to.
No, not anymore. Now it's cheap paper and soft copy.
This
or
is
digital.
Japanese. Yeah, this is nearly 200 gram Japanese OG with a little ivory tint to it, paper, art paper. And it's printed by a fine art publisher, Artron in China. And it's, you know, as I say, 300 pages, nearly 200 pictures. It's the book that every photographer would dream of, because every photographer doesn't want to see their pictures, you know, writ small, like a postage stamp. They want to look at them big, and they want you to look at them and say, oh my goodness, Look at that. But now Kickstarter is the key. First time round for that book, we were very fortunate because we had friends, whether it was Canon, of which we were Canon ambassadors, whether it's philanthropists who own big businesses, who have been on safari with us, who love nature. We were able to fund the production of that book and publish it through a wonderful South African, Heinrich Vandenberg, of HPH Publishers in South Africa.
Jonathan, do you know that Heinrich lives not 2 streets away from me here in Johannesburg?
And you know, when I came to visit you, I got to meet his parents. Lovely, lovely people who love photography. And that's the other thing about that book. We were able to create the book the way we wanted it. And it meant also, it was so funny because, just to give you a little example, I told a friend in America who's very technical, and I said, Rick, he said, what are you doing now? So I said, this was 2016. We're about to publish a beautiful book. He said, what do you mean, an ebook? So I said, no. He said, what, an app? So I said, no. I said, a book, paper. He said, you got to be kidding. How are you going to publish it? How are you going to sell it? I said, and that was the thing about Heinrich. Heinrich loves books.
Yeah.
Now, if you can get a publisher like that and the finance to create the book like that, you're winning. This time round, we decided with our son, David, who designed the book, he lives in Santa Fe, his fiancee, Tori, together, they designed the Kickstarter campaign, they designed the book, and they, in a sense, now are running our business. You know, I'm 72, Angie's 68, we're getting on. So it's lovely to have the family involved. They designed the Kickstarter, and this now is the way. And so we set ourselves a target, because remember, with a Kickstarter, you have to name a price you want to reach, and you get a month to do it. And come the month, cometh the hour, if you didn't make your $30,000 that you pledged, you know, you actually said would make this project happen, you don't get anything.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yes. So imagine
we Dragon's Den or Shark Tank.
Yes, we say, look, we're hoping to raise $30,000. That was actually what we put as a target. It wasn't what the costs were going to be, but it was actually a figure that we thought, don't overestimate yourself. Don't get cocky. Don't think there's too many people who love the big cat people. These are tough times. People are really struggling. Set it at a reasonable thing. 30,000. We're at $94,000 with a week to go. Now you could say, well, don't be greedy. But the difference is this Kickstarter not only helps us publish the book, pay for the publishing and the printing, it also allows us to create a startup fund for where those books are pointing. Those books are the flagship for what we call the Sacred Nature Initiative. And the Sacred Nature Initiative has 3 pillars: inspire with our books and our television work, educate, get to the kids, tell them about nature. Most kids don't even know it exists anymore. They're on their tablet, you know, they're in their bedroom. They don't have adventures in the field anymore. Get the kids educated, get everybody educated. Then you've got a chance of conserving places like the Mara, because people can see why they should care about it.
Yeah.
So that's why we're now, last week, we want to get to 100,000, 110 even better. Then we get set up with the website. And the great thing about the website is one of the portals on it will be where you can go and straight away do a little questionnaire. How conservation minded are you about your own home and the way you're living?
I think, you know, Jonathan, you and I were chatting before we went live. And we were talking about the planet taking a breather because of COVID-19. And I think it's exactly that. People are now starting to look at their own environment and go, what can we do to make our environment just that little bit better, little bit more conservation friendly, maybe put out food for the birds in the garden, which we didn't do before, because birds are also struggling, you know. So there are all sorts of small spin-offs that could be seen as positive rather than just, oh, it's COVID-19, so we've got to put our heads in the sand.
Well, you know, I think the other thing, David, that you mentioned earlier was that, you know, it's difficult to be an optimist in these kind of times. There's been, you know, the planet has taken such a hammering. You watch David Attenborough's, you know, My Life, where he looks back over 50, 60 years on television, and he's got a clock up in the top of the, the viewing panel, which is counting down the loss of wilderness. And I think we're down to about 35%. We've lost 65%, in our lifetime. And so what this project is doing is, with the Sacred Nature Initiative website and somewhere you can go, is to say to everybody, don't feel powerless. Don't say, I'm going to wait for the government to do it for me. Don't say there's nothing I can do. Yes, there is. You could be more mindful about how much water you're using. You could be more mindful about your electricity consumption. You could throw away half the suits and shoes and dresses you've got and give them to charity. You could do with less consumption. So we want to show people there's simple things at home. And as you hinted, everybody's got a sacred nature.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere you look. You just got to look. And it may mean you've got to step outside your door, but for some people, they won't have to. They've got a potted plant, which is their pride and joy, waiting for it to sort of, blossom. So that's what we say. It doesn't have to be big cats, but obviously if it is big cats, even better. Look at that. This is sacred too.
This is the book that we're talking about. And having been in India 2 years ago and spending 7 days with one particular tigress, I understand the beauty of this image. And for people who've never seen tigers before, and I'll put my hand up to one of those. When she first came out of the bush to lie in a water wallow, I went, it's a tiger. And then you look again, and all of a sudden, and I'm doing it now, the hair on the back of your neck rises. And I don't care how many years you've spent in the bush, how many lions, leopards, and cheetahs you've seen. When one of these comes in front of your lens, everything changes.
Totally. And I give you an interesting point here. So we're looking at tigers. What do we reckon? 4,000 left in the wild? 4,000. And if you look at tigers and lions, to put it in a perspective, because numbers can be sort of, they can be easily misrepresented, but put it into something which is more tangible. Tigers and lions have lost 90% of the natural landscape. You imagine that 90% of where they used to roam is no longer available to them. 90%.
That's scary.
We are literally, yes.
No. I was going to say, I don't want to stop you, but I'm just watching the time as well. I know I have to.
You do. Shall I tell you why? Because people sometimes say to Angie, is there an off switch? And if there is, can you tell us how to activate it?
Jonathan, for people in this last few days of February that still want to contribute to the Kickstarter campaign, how do they go about it?
Okay, there's a link, and I'm hoping, David, you will provide them with the link to the Kickstarter page. If you don't have it right now, we'll get it to you. I know Heinrich will have it. But if you were to Google the Big Cat People or Jonathan Angela Scott Kickstarter campaign, that picture of that tiger will come up with a link, and you go onto the Kickstarter page, and there's all kinds of options. You can buy a single copy of Sacred Nature 2, the new book, for it's going to be $60, probably $80 in the shops, but at the moment $60, and they'll ship it. Bit of extra money for the shipping, but they'll ship it anywhere in the world. There are various other elements there that you can tap into. So you can buy a limited edition copy. There's even some safaris, all the safaris with myself and Angie in the Mara, which were up for grabs. They've all gone. But I tell you what, there's a couple of amazing trips on offer in Botswana, which are still waiting to be got. One with wilderness safaris, 4 nights, 2 people, 2 camps, classic camps, and the others at a place you may know of, in Thule Lodge, in the Thule Reserve. There's somewhere called Mashatu Hides.
Oh, I know Mashatu well.
Okay, so that's where the photographers go. They get down low in a hideaway place. They photograph. The great photographer, South African photographer Greg Dutoy, he won the Wildlife Photographer of the Year overall award with a picture taken there. So anyway,
Mashatu is a different experience altogether. It is stunning. And Janet Klein, who is one of their resident photographers, was a guest on In Conversation With. And she, like all of us, is waiting to get back to the bush and back to that particular hide. Jonathan,
anyway,
I wish you guys all the best with this campaign.
so
I hope that it gets you to the 110 and maybe even beyond. And so that the money that, the excess money in inverted commas, can be put to the uses that you want it to. And you guys can go from strength to strength. That's what I was trying to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. My guest today on In Conversation With has been Jonathan Scott, one of the big cat people. That Kickstarter campaign, go and look them up and make your contribution. The book, the big book, he says, this was my gym work for today. This is Sacred Nature 1. I don't know, is this still available anywhere, or is it all sold out?
The standard edition is sold out, but on the Kickstarter website, you can still get, at a good discount, limited edition copies of Sacred Nature 1, and they're being sold as a sort of twin with the new
Sacred Nature 2.
Yeah, so it's there.
Great stuff. Jonathan, once again, nice to chat to you. Take care. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Will do.